analyze or discuss issues that would contribute to, the development of our dear nation, Nigeria. This morning, we're going to be looking at, the challenges in the power sector and also possible takeover. And we're going to be having this conversation with an information professional, policy and public affairs analyst, Benedict Olalekan Agunloye. He will be joining us live via telephone this morning. My name is Omoife Peace Osemere, and I'm not alone in the studios.
That's right. My name is Uduak Daniel, and to you, wherever you may be and listening to the sound of our voice, we are joining you to be a part of this one because it's going to be a smart conversation. I always say that. And across social media platforms, we have a strong presence. So get on there and see for yourself the ambience that the studio gives. So match the voice with the face and be a part of it. YouTube, subscribe at Eagles FM Abuja, on Facebook at Eagles FM Abuja, and spread the love, the wings across every other social media platforms. TikTok, Instagram at Eagles FM Abuja. Right, the power sector in Nigeria, I mean, it's more like a kicker now. It's more like a household name, because there is nothing that you get to do in terms of development and everything that you don't talk about power. But then the power sector is one that has been played, of course, challenged by over the decades, and including inadequate infrastructure. We've seen corruption, inefficiency. I mean, it was privatized in 2013, but the expected improvements have not really yet materialized. So the frequent national grid collapses have resulted in widespread, power outages. Look at the last one that happened, which, of course, the TCN had debunked and said, oh, it's not really a national grid collapsing.
It was a minor
collapse and all of that. But whether it's minor or major,
so we have major and minor
collapse. That's the thing. But yeah, that is what we are being made to understand. And all of these collapses has affected businesses, homes, industries. I mean, the Minister of Power, Mr. Adebayo Adelabu, has stated that the government cannot guarantee an end to the collapse due to insecurity, vandalism, as well as poor infrastructure. He went on to saying that cost of repairs for damaged power infrastructure is beyond the budget of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, that is the TCN, and the company has had to source unbudgeted funds to make repairs. So the power sector would need about 1.8 trillion naira in 2025 alone to fix projects. But the minister admitted that it would be a mirage to hope to get such an amount of money. I mean, the way it seems.
That's right. Well, it's safe to say that the power sector is the most, talked about sector in Nigeria. I mean, aside the security, and also the economy. We know, of course, that the power sector is a major driver, of Nigeria's, economy and also sectoral growth, and that also cuts across board.
That's
the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, has also come under, heavy criticisms, from Nigerians in recent times, and even stating now that the federal government cannot guarantee an end to the frequent national grid collapses in 2025 due to certain factors that are actually, relative, or one can actually relate to. I say that because of vandalism, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen cases of Nigerians vandalizing, infrastructure put out there to serve the common good, of the masses.
Right.
So it's really a disturbing trend. But
True.
Is that really enough reason, to now say that, or to say that is the reason why we have, this frequent,
Grid
national
collapses.
grid, collapses in the country? Well, the new year 2025 has just started,
That's
and just
right.
like you said earlier, one happened last week, Saturday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Although it has been tagged in a minor grid collapse, but looking at the year 2024 that has just ended, it was indeed a remarkable year, for Nigeria's power sector. 12 grid collapses, cases rather, in the year 2024.
That's right.
Not one for each month, but you might just want to chew on that. I think the records are there. All right. In 2024, the grid collapsed 8 times.
8 times.
With 5 being full collapses.
Yes, that was it.
And 3 being partial collapses. Now, the minister noted that the cost of repairs for the damaged power infrastructure is beyond the budget of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, and that the company has had to source unbudgeted funds to make repairs. In spite of this, there's been hikes, in electricity tariffs.
That's right. And there'll be more.
So that is not also, or maybe not put into consideration, right? Now, the Senate Committee on Power, led by Senator Yinaya Baribe, is considering a possible takeover of the power sector due to the constant excuses and lack of progress. Well, it's good that the Senate Committee on Power, led by Senator Yinaya Baribe, has tagged it constant excuses and lack of progress. So when Nigerians call on radio or national television to say that there is no progress, we're not making any progress in the power sector, and the excuses are becoming one too many, it's not actually a mirage or a lie. So it leaves us with, a truckload of questions. But to start with, how does the frequent national grid collapse affect the economy? Is that even news? And the daily lives of Nigerians? And what are the possible solutions to these problems? We've brought energy consultants, to this show
talk about
so
these
many
things.
times.
Yeah, so many times, most deaf.
And suggestions have been made, but it appears those suggestions are quite too expensive, and maybe they won't be adopted. But to even consider a possible takeover, would that be an antidote to this, constant, back and forth in the power sector, like we have in the political space?
What do you know? I mean, we have a guest. We already mentioned his name.
That's right.
Mr. Benedict is already standing in wait. Good morning and welcome to Eagles Outlook, Sir Benedict Olalekan Agunloye.
Black.
Right. Welcome aboard. Well, this story is not new. You are one who is more as you are an information professional. You're a policy and public affairs analyst, and it's not the first time that you have had your voice in the discourse. And right now, ever since 2013, when the power sector found privatization, up until now, what comes to your mind, especially where the Senator Yinaya Baribe, who's spearheading the committee on power to oversee it, have come to say that there might be a possible government takeover. Do you see that as a panacea to solving these problems?
I think I strongly support his position.
Okay.
And if they can work around the details of getting that done, I think that may be the best going forward. Now, when you trace back to history, the government realized about $2.5 billion from selling the 18 companies that were sold in 2013. And I think that they were made to pay license fees for 10 years. So which means that effectively the license they paid for at the time should have expired.
Right.
So we need to find out what is the status of their operational license. Has it been renewed? Was it renewed for another 10 years? What were the considerations that were put in place for the renewal? The reality has been that those who took over the sector, in my opinion, did not have the money to run it. Because whether it's the federal government directly or the World Bank intervention, over 3 trillion naira has come into the sector. Now we need to put that cost down and ask that question. Those who took over the companies and are managing them, what has been their matching fund over the period? How many transformers have come into the distribution sector, for instance, between then and now? How many of the transformers were actually procured by the discos? How many were procured by the individuals and the communities? How many poles have the disco introduced? How many did the community introduce? Now, I cannot sell. In my place, they say when you sell someone a goat, you also give him the rope. If I sell you a goat and I'm still feeding the goat for you, then you are not a worthy buyer. And so I think that if anything, if you cannot maintain the goat, I should rather have it back. If you think you have invested anything, let us sit down and compare notes. How much profit have you taken away from the system? How much money have you invested? How much has the federal government invested? When we put that in the right perspective, we look at what were in the agreement and the clauses. And if a takeover is possible, I think that would be the best way forward. Government may not need to manage it sustainably. We can always now get some new set of core investors who have both the technical, the managerial, and the financial capacity to run the sector.
All right.
But in obvious, the current owners have shown that they do not have the financial muscle, they do not have the technical and the financial competencies to run the business.
All right, Mr. Benedict, some Nigerians have their reservation, especially when it comes to privatizing, sectors or, some assets of government for proper management.
Right.
But in this case, it appears that, privatizing it has not really brought about, good, or the expected outcome is, far-fetched from the reality that we are faced with on ground today. So when you look at the historical roots of Nigeria's past sectors, challenges, and how it has also, evolved over time, is it really a case of poor management or a case of undue interference?
No, I don't think it's a case of undue interference. If government has not interfered at all, we would have been nowhere. If the funds from the government, take the funds from the government and the funds from the World Bank going into the sector out, we're talking of over 3 trillion naira in less than 10 years. So you take that out of the sector. Now, if you want me to give you money, okay, for now we are talking about meters. Discos have refused to give us the terminal date to stop estimated billing. But they are asking government to provide meters for them to give to the people. Now, if government is to provide the meter, why are you talking about interference? The reality is that the privatization process, in my opinion, was not properly run. You now always talk about people, process, and of course, technology stroke services. If you have not put those things in the right perspective at the point of conception, we would always end where we are ended. The reality is that none of the discos have demonstrated sufficient capacities, both managerially and technically, to manage the system. Why am I saying that? Where is their plan as to, okay, how do we get our maybe insulators customized so that even when you steal it, you cannot sell it? Let's have dedicated manufacturer. That's a turn that happen. The space is wide, the requirement is large, so a manufacturer will be ready to customize for you. And if it is customized for you and it is stolen, of course, the stealing process will become difficult because, number one, except they resell it, they can't use it. And on the road, whether it is the police or the civil defense can recognize that this thing is going through improper movement. So if such conceptions are not there, it's an issue. Poles are falling. I can send you images. I live in Kuba. You see pole that has been resting on people's fence for more than 3 years, and nothing has been done to move them away. That is not interference. That is incompetence. That is negligence on the part of the disco, of AEDC, which is the disco in Abuja. Not being able to end estimated billing. Now, estimated billing is 2 things. Some people are paying for darkness. Some people can also afford to steal if they can negotiate very well. So if you end estimated billing, you would have ended stealing to an extent, and you would also have ensured that people are not paying for darkness. But I think that the people that are paying for darkness are more, and so that is comfortable and okay for the discos. So they are not seeing any reason why they should end estimated billing. And that's why they keep giving excuses over and over again about meter. And of course, when you come to TCN, yes, there are trained people and there are experts, but I also still tell you that there is negligence. At the state where we are in, we should be doing a radial power distribution system, there shouldn't be any issue talking about national control anymore. National control can be a buffer zone, but if you have as much as 18 distribution generating companies, I think that the generating stations should distribute within their environment. That way you reduce the distance of wheeling, and when you reduce the distance of wheeling the power, the possibility of damages, because each time you keep telling us, oh, Osogbo to Jeba line has been this, has been that. Osogbo is far from Jeba in my opinion. So if Jeba generates, let Jeba distribute in Niger and Kwara. If anybody generates in Lagos, let them distribute around Lagos. The Niger Delta Power Holding should distribute within the coastal zone. So we should begin to talk about decentralizing the TCN. When you decentralize it and the generating stations have their coverage area, then we can now be talking about backup in the event of shortfalls, and that can be defined. And like we keep saying, the rural electrification scheme, for instance, should not be taken to the national grid. It's either you are putting them on a mini grid or you are putting them on off grid. When that is done, DISCOs eventually would also become challenged to be more responsible. If I can do without DISCO, then DISCO need to convince me why I should come to the national grid to join them.
All right, Mr. Benedict, the technicalities, surrounding the issues in the power sector, they are quite very sensitive and sketchy, right? But as it stands, a possible takeover by the government, would that really bring a lasting solution to the challenges bedeviling the power sector, knowing that there are other concerns brewing from other sectors, in Nigeria, and adding the power sector to, the responsibility of the government? Wouldn't that make it, somewhat of a Herculean task or a tall order for the government? And also, you said something about negligence, all right? We know, of course, that the mass metering program, the reason perhaps as to why it has not really gathered the necessary or the needed momentum is because, the federal government was supposed to have a stake in the provision of these meters. But the other party is saying that the federal government could not really keep up or meet up, with the bargain. It actually entered with the federal government. Where do you stand on this? And then to take you back to the first question I asked, right? Don't you think a possible takeover by the federal government would even make the issues more complicated?
Well, when you have a sector that is as badly run as our DISCOs, I take you to the British rail system. Majority of the rail system were built by the government and leased to people to run. When you run, I think years back, when District and Cycles ran the system aground, government needed to take it over, rebuild it, recapitalize, ensure that things were done under some measure of consultancy, and then when that was ready, it was released to a new organization. So what we are saying is, over the last 10 years, you are giving your car to somebody to run and he has run it badly. Take it back, right? Put it in the normal standard. Put the measures that should least you can get a new, and at that point, loss of the partners, moving out the inefficiencies, and you are putting safeguards. When you come to metering, DISCOs are only making excuses. As far as I'm concerned, they are comfortable that the people are paying for darkness. Otherwise, when you say meters, are the consumers ready to pay? The answer is yes. If you actually ask consumers to pay ahead and you will give them meter in 3 to 6 months, I can assure you that many consumers will be willing to pay. So are you saying you cannot run a revolving scheme, even with the money that you get from these consumers, to run the system? The reality is, for me, is that the DISCOs actually does not want the metering to come. They don't want to close the metering gap because it's helping their revenue. People who are on estimated billing are paying higher. than people that are metered. And even when they don't have light, they still pay. I've seen community without light for 6 months or a whole year, and the bills will still come. And DISCO will insist that except, particularly Benin Electricity Distribution, will insist that except the backlog, the darkness, the period of darkness is paid for, they will not restore power to those places. For me, the excuse on meeting as to government meeting up is not.
All right, Sir Benedict, are you there?
Genuine.
Hello?
To DISCO should import, sell it to the people, and let's have it run.
All right, isn't that why the power sector as a whole is in need of an immediacy of reforms at this point in time? Because some experts are saying that if there was ever going to be a time for reform, now would be the right time. Do you agree with that?
No, I agree with that totally. And that's why I'm saying the people who handles it now, whether the TCN or the DISCOs or the GENCOs, are not the ones to do the reforms. We need to have a change of hand. We need to possibly have, maybe you're putting it, a consortium of consultants and experts over the next maybe 6 months to 1 year to redraw to redefine the system, to redefine the outlooks and the plans. And after that, you can begin to now think whether you want to engage people on a lease-based system, and the agreement should be defined, the performance terms should be defined, so you know that when you don't meet these deadlines and these targets, your lease contract will be forfeited. And I don't think that anybody should get a contract that is more than 3 to 5 years.
Right.
Renewable.
Right.
If you perform, it's renewed. If it's not performed, it's not renewed, and a new consortium or organization who will demonstrate better, who must have demonstrated better competence, is allowed to take it in.
Okay.
A 10 years agreement or a 10 years license last was given to DISCOs in 2013 November. For me, I think it's not good enough. A 3 to 5 year tenure would be fine. But as it is today, we cannot sell from where we are. You need to bring some things in. TCN need to be unbundled the way the others have been done, so that GENCOs have their coverage area, and the DISCOs in the coverage area of the GENCOs can begin to work with them, so that you are no longer talking of long distance and then you are talking of vandalization and this and that. If people outside the sector can also not vandalize our transmission line. Transmission lines in Nigeria are running at 330 kVA. 330 kVA is too powerful for a novice to go and tamper with. So if it is being tampered with, they should still ask questions and ring around those who are benefiting from the post shutdown. When there is when there is an outage or a shortfall, it's an emergency response. Funds are released for people to take action. People need to move around. Things need to be bought. So let's be careful that it is not even some people in the sector who are responsible for these things that we are traced and trailing back.
Well, we are also responsible to the listener right now. So let's put a peg to your thoughts and open the phone line so we can hear from the family members. Well, you want to had your voice to this discourse already. What do you think about a possible takeover by the federal government for the power sector in Nigeria? You should call these numbers now.
Right, you can call us on 0907 353 0044 or 0908 766 8888. You can send a message, just a message, to the WhatsApp portal on 0909 705 4450.
Right. Hello, good morning. All right, that's a miss though. Well, we'll just take this time out, go on recess. We'll be back in a short bit. Don't go away.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja. Wow, it's Emirates. It's time of the year when we all start to plan our next holidays, and you are spoiled for choice with Emirates. Fly better to over 114 destinations and connect to over 1,700 more with their partners across the world on what a way to travel. With bars in the sky, onboard showers, and award-winning in-flight entertainment. It's no surprise that Emirates was named the best airlines in the world. So book now on Emirates.com.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja.
Do you want to know about cars? Everything about cars, from purchase to maintenance and even road use. Don't go too far. Listen to Top Gear on Eagles 102.3 FM every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Top Gear, let's give you a spin.
No offense to the commercials. It's just that we want to see other audio.
Eagles 102.3.
Has anyone told you you can talk about your business on radio for just
20,000 naira?
Get a chance to talk your business for 25 minutes on The Entrepreneur. Mondays to Fridays, 3 p.m. on Eagles 102.3 FM Abuja. For more inquiries, call 090-9984-4433. 090-9984-4433. Hurry now.
No AC? No problem. We're cooling you down with the freshest hits.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja.
All right, and we're back from recess right there. We are also hoping to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts on the topical issue. I mean, the Minister of Power, right, Adebayo Adelabu, whilst trying to defend, the budget for 2025 for the power sector, made a proclamation where he said, we should not expect that there will be no power grid collapses in 2025. So in other words, hang your mind around the fact that there's going to be a power grid in 2025 collapse, and that's because of certain issues as ranging from vandalism, infrastructural deficits, quite insecurity, quite a number of things he has outlined. But then the power committee that has been set up to look into these affairs, led by Inaya Abaribe, had hinted that, look, after expressing dissatisfaction at first, they had hinted that, look, hey, we cannot continue to play dilly-dally with this particular sector, that there might just be a government takeover, of the power sector. But please, let's stick to the number 0907-353-0044. Hello and good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you, Moses.
Moses from Senegal.
Right. Talk to us, Moses.
I want to thank your guest over there.
Right.
I really enjoy in many moments you invite into your studio or you connect into your studio for some facts on the ground. He's someone who speaks on reality. Why is it so difficult that we don't have such people in government? People who can speak facts like this. We have them. I wish that we have such people in a certain administrative position where they can advise government on certain things to do. The issue of power is a failure in this country. Totally failure. Look at Ghana recently. They are celebrating their power, non-failure. I was surprised. Ghana was a nation that Nigeria gave them electricity. Today, they are celebrating non-interrupted power. My question is, what is happening with our own power sector? It's simple. Corruption. The issue of corruption is not dealt with. When you place somebody on a certain position and the thing is not functioning, change is not an offense. there are people who are qualified. You should pick them on that very position. Then the issue of electricity, do we have monitoring team? Who will be monitoring these people, or you just give them that power sector for them to operate without monitoring them? They should have a monitoring committee. You have money from the hands of the customers. What is the outcome? What is the percentage going to the government? What are the people benefiting from what you have put as a government property? You place somebody on a property, and that property is not being taken care of. That's why I give kudos to our network, because the network is a competitive organization. Because if this one cannot serve me, I can change to another line. So I think that the issue of competition should also come in, and states should also be involved. They shouldn't look onto the federal government. The states also should be involved. So state government should set up a committee to investigate this power sector. Thank you, and I appreciate your guest.
Right.
God will bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Moses. Right there. All the way from Suleja, he is calling from. You also want to add your voice. 0907 353 0044 is that number for you to call. Well, we're back with you, Sir Adefolari. Beg your pardon, Sir Benedict Olaleko. But just before we get with you, let's quickly just hear from this family member.
Hello,
good morning to you, please.
Hello, good morning, Rudy and Dan.
Yes.
My name is Faye. Well done, my sister. Well done for your good job. My name is Nadidi Blessing, according to Metako.
Right.
I greet our guest. He spoke very well. I believe I don't know. I want to ask him what is our right. We will do for darkness. Me, I cannot pay for darkness in my life. What I not see use. During the time of New Year, I work when I go see one of my friends. I go visit her when we dey for Nyanya. The way when Nyanya, this NEPA, I'm not going to call the NEPA, whether na AUDC, we don't know the name wey we go give them. Now whether na black or black, we go give them this time around. Baby bless you, no. The money that my friend is paying, they no get light, nothing, wey not to just help, they go bring big con, they go pay. And this money where they are paying, not be say that they pay for to their account, now hand to hand that they pay. I want to ask these people who they know they get light, whether they pay for darkness. If I may ask where the money is going, is it going for government account or for individual? Let us know, because I don't hear one day say NEPA not supposed to cut our light. We do the no pay. When NEPA go get right to cut your light or 3 months, you reach 3 months, you no pay. They get later where they go write for you, reform say you are home. And if they give you later, they go give you level days to pay. Level days. And if that level days you reach, you no get money to pay. They go still remind you, you are still home, They don't have right to cut our light. And now if they pay hand to hand, the money no they reach government, they will continue to stay for darkness. I know say our now our guys say we like to pay for darkness. No, not be say we like it. What do we do? What will be our right to hold this NEPA responsible? Now NEPA supposed to work on Sunday, because we see the area where we dey now. Every Sunday NEPA they help people the month they cut their life, and so go collect money hand to hand. They go say you go pay 100,000, 200,000. Is this supposed to be like that? I think we not get people what they supposed to have law. We not get law for Nigeria. Is it say they cause us? Now the NEPA make no, we know they get meter. The way they want to give us meter, let us give us meter. NEPA, stay your house, stay your office. Now we go to buy the charge for your hand to load for our meter. Please, make they want NEPA, right, because they got the set for them.
Okay, I get that. Bibi,
thank you very much, Bibi.
Yeah, some information right there, and it's a very vital news or information from Bibi. Well, Sir Benedict, what will be your response to all of this?
Well, I think a point of correction. I did not say the people like to pay for darkness. I said that the discos love it that the people will pay estimated billing, because that way they can earn for darkness. It is not the people that like it, it is the disco that have made the conditions so.
Right.
I think that is very clear. It is not the people that will provide the meter, it is the disco that will provide the meter. The blame would have gone to the people, assuming the meters are available and the people refuse to collect it. So, but in this case, the meters are not there, so it is the fault of the disco. Right. And yes, when you talk about going a takeover, I think that a takeover is actually proper, because we need to also look at the privatization and redefine. Okay. For me, Yes, we have Gencos, we have Discos. I think that there should also, the marketing should actually be taken away from the Disco going forward. If there is a takeover and there will be unbundling, the marketing should be unbundled. So district by district should possibly have marketing outfits that are responsible for metering, that are responsible for monitoring. So they will now be the one to register the complaint. This pole has fallen, this cable has dropped. So it is a case between the marketing company and Discos. So Discos will stop using technical languages for the people, and we don't have a transformer installed, we don't have this. The day the transformer goes down, the marketing company knows that in this district, Disco is not entitled to any money. When you get to that point where responsibilities are shared, I want to believe that going forward also Discos will become more responsive. At the moment, Disco is responsible for metering and for marketing, and so whatever figure they declare is the figure that is declared. Gencos are also there telling us they are generating this amount. If we can only wheel 4,005 or 5,000, why are you generating 7,000? If you generate 7,000 megawatts, you expect to be paid for 7,000, is it not? So to an extent, something is wrong in that mix. And as for the minister, what would have been new to hear from him is promising us that there will be no TCN, there will be no shutdown from TCN.
Right.
But the obvious thing is that we all know that grid collapse will continue because nothing has been done. So the minister telling us that is not smart. He's just being, in my opinion, he's being insincere. He should be telling us what are we planning to do to reduce the number of grid collapse. And in his language, I also think it's irresponsible to say that there was only 8 grid collapse in a year. Should there be grid collapse at all? That you now call 8 only? I think that is like playing with the sensitivity of the Nigerian people.
No, maybe,
so for me,
maybe referring to only 8 is just a pointer to the fact that we have major, and minor cases of grid collapse in Nigeria. So
and that's what I'm saying. Even if you say 8 major and 3 minor or whatever minor, a collapse is a collapse. When somebody has partial paralysis, right? How do you report it? Is it not paralysis? Right. Whether it's partial or total, paralysis is paralysis. Let's be very clear about that. When you call it partial and a whole state or 3 states, Kaduna, Kano, and Katsina couldn't get power for 3 months or thereabout, and then you say it's minor. No, whatever affect Kano for me is not minor to Nigeria. Whatever affect Kaduna for me is not minor to Nigeria. Whatever affect Lagos is not minor to Nigeria. So those languages is using, as far as I'm concerned, are diplomatic lies. Okay. We don't need the lies, we need to face the reality. Unbundle the TCN. Let us have radial power distribution. If you generate in Kano, distribute in Kano.
Well,
if you generate in Port Harcourt, distribute in Port Harcourt.
Isn't that what NERC has transferred full electricity regulatory oversight to 4 states as it stands right now? And sometime in, was it November of last year now, we have seen where, November of last year, let me see. There was a report that about 18 states, have been giving some sort of autonomy, to be able to handle their own power generation and all of that. And then more so recently, we have seen a stagnation in the power generation, or that we have stagnating to 4,500 megawatts, even lesser than 5,000 megawatts, despite the 3.23 billion naira loans, $1 billion. 3.23 billion US dollar loans that was contributed by the World Bank, the global institutes, institutions such as World Bank, African Development Bank, Japan International Cooperation Agency. I mean, they've all supported the power sector with billions of dollars in loans, yet many parts of Nigeria still suffer incessant blackouts.
Well, I always say this. You don't throw money at problems. No. you first of all define what process do you need to go through, what people do you have, what technologies do you need, and then when the funds are coming, you can begin to apply them. But in this case, I see more of most times we're throwing money at the problem. Money in itself cannot solve the problem. Then when you come to generation, if generation is like rain, let's be sincere about that. If rain falls, and it doesn't matter if it rains for 10 days, if you live in the village and you have only one, what happens to you is that you can only fill one drum. And anytime the rain stops, when you are done using your one drum, you will run out of water and you will go back to the stream. Is it not? So if we can only transmit 5, why are we generating 7? Why are we generating 10? Why are we generating 13?
Right.
It will eventually become a waste. So to an extent, therefore, if they are saying they are generating 5, they are just doing within what can be transmitted. And I'm not even sure that the discos are distributing up to 5. Why? Because so many transformers are down, so many poles are falling, cables are dropped that have not been picked. So to a large extent, like we would say, I think that there is a need for a change of management.
Okay.
If the government can have it back, let's do a fresh appraisal. Let's now learn from the mistakes of the immediate past, of the last privatization. What were the things that should be done that were not done? What were service terms that need to be incorporated? And I think as for states, yes, states have been allowed to make laws on electricity, which means we've decentralized. So states can now have their plan and come up with their programs. Okay. They can decide to have their mini grids and the rest. Okay. But we also know that this thing will take a lot of time. Right. And unfortunately also for us, when it comes to responsibilities, our government sometimes shy away. We love privileges. That you can legislate on power is a privilege, right?
Yes.
So we will take that quickly. Okay. But to provide the power, to conceptualize the state, to mini grids, to those who should be on off grid, to know which companies should be engaged, and the rest of that. Those are responsibilities. And those are things that sometimes the government, especially at the subnational level, are slow in taking. Maybe 4 to 5 states can be effective, but you don't expect anything coming from the remaining 32 for a long time to come.
Okay.
Because the reality, if you check it today, maybe I think Ondo already have a delayed law domesticated. I think Lagos has it. Maybe one of the states in the north. What are the other 33 doing? Some of them don't even have a committee or a body that will help them in transiting to having the law domesticated for electricity and electrification.
All right.
So it's a big issue.
Indeed. The issues bedeviling the power sector, they are hydra-headed. But Mr. Benedict, just to wrap up the conversation, talking about the generation capacity, that we are having at the moment, hovering around 4,500, whilst we are not even sure of our numbers, in terms of population growth, I'd like to ask you to please suggest, if possible, the generation capacity that can indeed cater for Nigeria's population as it is.
Okay. Well, for me, as a physics graduate and somebody who dealt in energy as an undergraduate, the theory of power is simple. You don't go from generation. Like I told you, it's like generation is like rainwater. Before you pay the rainmaker, you must have been ready to clear your roof where you will collect the rainwater. That's transmission, right? You must also have had your tanks with which you want to collect the water, or the farm that you want the water to do what? To water. After that, you can now go and pay the rainmaker. So generation is not the starting point. Distribution, who are the consumers? How do we need to engage them? What do they need to consume? Like I said, there are people who should be off grid. Don't bother bringing them to national grid. There are people that will have mini grids. You've got a lot of river waterheads here and there across the nation. You have access to solar, you have access to wind and some other means of generation.
Right.
So first of all, find out what is the consumption requirement of people.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
When you know the consumption requirement, how best do we deliver this requirement?
All right,
is it
Sir
over
Benedict.
the national grid? Is it over the mini grid?
Yes.
Is it over an off-grid system? Based on that, you can now determine what you need to generate.
All right,
Even
sir.
if at the initial stage your generation capacity is not right, you can do load shedding.
Okay.
Right? And then as you step up generation, you continue to increase maybe from 6 hours to 8 hours to 12 hours to 20 hours until you can get 24. But
right.
you don't start from generation.
All right.
Generation, because once it is generated, if you cannot transmit and distribute it, it is wasted. But money had already been spent.
All right, Sir
Okay.
Benedict.
So I don't want to put a figure to our generation,
Okay.
but I want us to fix the distribution network and be sure that when we generate or increase generation, it will be distributed and the people can use it.
All right, a family member says, is there, Oganamano Austin is saying, is there anything working in Nigeria? Every sector of the economy has its peculiar problems. Government has no business in business. I paid for a meter since my last year, and up until now, I have not gotten the meter I paid for. We have a long way to go. Corruption everywhere. The estimated billing carried out by the establishment is a way of corrupting the system because that money is not accounted for most of the time. The subscribers are billed arbitrarily. They have to pay through their noses. From Oganamano Austin there in Ado, Nasarawa State. Thank you so much, Sir Benedict, for adding your voice in the
You're
discourse
welcome.
this morning.
Thank
and
you
yes,
very
to
much.
each and every one of us that have also supported this conversation. We're looking forward to positivism and not negativism in the future. Right. My name is Udwak Daniel.
And I am Omoife Peace of Semere, but there's a lot more to come, really. At the 10 o'clock hour, it will be time for the General Open Banter, and we encourage you to join us at that time as well. Good morning.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja.
Welcome to the studios. With me here today is Engineer Emmanuel Day.